I'm making this video because the tutorial in the game was somewhat buggy and didn't really give me the information I wanted. So hopefully this will help you starting out playing Life as Feudal Forest Village. Let's make a new game, and in this window you can obviously title your village, you can select the map size, the relief, plains, hills, or mountains. You can choose the climate. So to make this as easy as possible, I'll do a small map size, plains, and a mild climate. I'll also uncheck start without houses, so I'll have a few houses to start with, and I'll uncheck disasters. Here you can select where your village goes, so let me just pick a spot, say right there. Okay, so here we can see we have a few houses and buildings, and we also have a few villagers walking around. Let me show you some of the controls and indicators and stuff. Right up here we have the village info. We've got the village title, the population, the season and the year since we started the village, the weather, the temperature, number of adults, teenagers, and children, number of available beds in the houses, number of workplaces, number of idle workers, and number of hungry villagers. Here we have all the resources, supplies, and materials. The first 5 are building resources: logs, stone, ore, clay, and hay. These are stored in the warehouse, which is this building right here. The rest of the stuff, or most of the rest of it, maybe all of it, is stored in the barn, which is this building here. And this square will show you all of your stuff that's stored in barns and warehouses, no matter how many barns and warehouses you have. So this is firewood. Firewood's very important. We've got 340 firewood. We've got to keep our eyes on the firewood, because if it runs low, then people will start freezing to death. And then there's charcoal. There's lots of different kinds of food. We've got some fish and some bread and some fruit right now. We've got plenty of food. That's another thing you have to keep your eyes on. Firewood and food. Those are the 2 things that'll make or break your village. The villagers will die without them. Over here we have the village map, the mini map, and you can click around in it to move. I actually prefer to move using the WASD keys, just like you would in any other game. You can also turn the camera using Q and E, or you can also turn the camera alternatively by right-clicking and then dragging with the mouse. And you can zoom in and out with the plus and minus keys on the numpad. So down here we have some more controls. We have the speed up, slow down, and pause. And I'm going to go ahead and pause now so that nothing bad happens while I'm showing you around. And then we have general info. We can destroy buildings, various like information windows and stuff. Here's terraforming, here's collecting resources, here's houses, storage, buildings that you, a lot of this is buildings you can just build, and then, resource gathering buildings, municipal buildings, castles, pavement, roads, decorations, fences, and then you can close the menu. Right over here is the village log, and as we do things and as things happen, they'll show up as entries in the log. If villagers are born or die, if they're getting hungry, food reserves are getting low, if your barns and warehouses are getting full, if you start or finish construction of a building, and these buttons here will filter what shows up in the log. Remember, the most important things are to keep the food and the firewood plentifully supplied. Right now we have no means of producing food or firewood. So the first thing we need to do is to build buildings to produce those things. So I'll show you a little bit about constructing buildings. Another building that we need to construct is a house, because this villager, he has a little indicator over him that says that he needs a house. We've got a population of 10 right up here, and we've only got 9 available beds, so we've got a little extra villager here. So he needs a house. So let's start by placing a house for him. Let's go over here, click on houses. We've got 3 shacks. Let's just build another shack. Okay, and you can rotate. As you can see, I'm pressing the R key to rotate. You can also press and hold R to rotate it to any angle you choose. I'll just do it parallel with the other houses. Click, and that places it. Now I'm going to right click, and that'll click me out of the building mode. So that's the spot where it's going to go when the villagers start working on it. So I've got it paused now, so they're not working on it. So let's just watch them build this house. Oh, but before I start, click on it. Just click on the building that's not constructed yet, and it shows you that you need to clear 2 trees before you can start. We also need to put some logs, some stone, and some hay in it. And then there are 4 steps to the building process. And none of this has been completed yet, as you can see by the zeros. So the villagers will do all this as soon as they start working on the house. Sometimes the idle workers will go and work on something. Sometimes they won't, though. So it's best to just assign some workers to the building. We'll just stick 4 workers in there. Let's see if we've got enough resources to build it. 30 logs, 10 stone, 10 hay. And we've definitely, as we can see up here, got plenty of all of those things in our warehouse. So let's go ahead and press play and watch them build the house. Now I find that anything slower than times 10 speed is just painfully slow, so I'm just going to increase the speed up to times 10 and we'll watch them build. Okay, it's done. Now you see these 2 symbols here. That means there's no firewood or food in the building, but they're going and getting firewood and food from the barn and putting them in the building. If there were no firewood or food in the barn, they wouldn't be able to put them in the building, and it would remain cold, and eventually the occupants of the building would die of exposure or of cold or of hunger. So you can click on the building and you can see the occupants, and you can also see the storage. Let me pause again because we still have no means of food production. All of our villagers have houses now, so that's good, and we have got some food and firewood, but we have no means of food production and we have no means of firewood production. And both of those things are extremely important, as I cannot emphasize enough. Okay, so let's go over here to food production. We've got a lot of different buildings that we can place for food. Some of them require other buildings to be in place first, like the bakery requires farm fields and a mill first. Some of them don't, in my opinion, produce enough food for the amount of workers they require. My two favorite to start out with in a young village are the hunting cabin and the gatherer's hut. Now they both have advantages and disadvantages. The hunting cabin works year round. But if you run out of animals, if for some reason they're not coming around, then it doesn't always provide enough food. With the gatherer's hut, it reliably provides a lot of food, but it only works during the summer. So I'm going to just place both of these. We've got enough villagers to work in both, so I'll just place both right here. There's the hunting cabin right here. And right click, and then I've got it on pause right now so they're not working on it, and then I'll place the gatherer's hut right here. Click, right click. Okay, so those are our 2 food production buildings. Now we also want a firewood production building, and that would be a lumberjack's lodge. So, no, that's not right. So we'll go to resource gathering right down here, and we'll click on the lumberjack's lodge. Okay, so the lumberjack's lodge entrance is the opening there. So let me rotate it until the opening is facing toward the barn and the warehouse. And the thing about the lumberjack's lodge is it does need to be near and easily accessible to both the barn and the warehouse, because the lumberjack takes logs out of the warehouse, cuts them up into firewood, and then places them in the barn. So I will just place it right here. And then right click. Okay, so we have 3 buildings that we have ready to build. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about prioritizing, pausing, stuff like that. Let's say we want them to wait on building the lumberjack's lodge. So we will come up here, we'll click on it, we'll pause construction, right here. This is an extremely useful feature. You can pause construction. So they won't do much in the way of working on it until you unpause the construction. Okay, so with these other two, I want them to work on both of them, but I want them to complete the hunting cabin first. So we go over here, we go to General Info, and we click on our little up arrow. This will allow us to prioritize one of these buildings. Actually, let's not do the hunting cabin first. Let's do the gatherer's hut first. So I'll just click here, click on the gatherer's hut. And as you can see right over here, we've got some stuff going on in the village, and one building priority increased. Okay, so we should have enough resources in here to complete all three of these buildings. Let's go ahead and play and watch the villagers as they work on them. So as you can see, they are starting the gatherer's hut. They're also working on the other buildings a little bit. I think this one they work on because I did place it and then pause it. I think maybe it takes them a minute to figure out that I paused it. With this one, they've got enough workers working on this that I prioritized, and so they just took the extra workers and made them work on this. And after all, this one's completed first. So I need to, the question mark is over this building and this one because I still have yet to assign workers to work here. We need to assign a gatherer and a hunter. So there's two ways we can do this. We can just click on the hunter's lodge, and we can click plus on the number of workers assigned to the building. So you see the question mark goes away, and now somebody's going to start hunting animals and then carrying the meat back to the barn. Now the other way we can assign workers is we can go down here to General Info again, and we can go to Profession, the Profession window. And the Profession window shows us all the profession options. All the ones that are not available are grayed out, but we've got some available ones. We've got the gatherer and the hunter. So let's add a gatherer. Oh, and up here it says how many workers are actually available. There's one worker available. We've got 4 assigned to general labor. We've got 1 assigned to hunting, and we've got 1 extra. So we'll just assign that one to gathering. And you'll see the fruit and vegetables start to go up as the gatherer gathers. You should also see the meat go up pretty soon. So I like to keep this window open because it's so useful. Let's go over here and unpause the construction on the lumberjack's lodge. Just press play. And then any available laborers will start working on it. Okay, it's complete, and now I'm going to take one of these general laborers away. I'm going to push the minus. Now I've got a worker available, and I'm going to go down here to the lumberjack's lodge, and I'm going to assign a lumberjack. So now there's going to be a lumberjack working on cutting logs, and you'll see the logs, the firewood go up in the barn. The logs go down, and the firewood go up. Now we are getting a little low on logs. So, to gather resources, I'm going to go here to Resource Gathering, and I'm going to select one of these. Here's Collect All Resources. Here's Logs, Stone, Ore, Hay, and here's Cancel Resource Gathering, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I'm going to start out by collecting wood. So, let me zoom out. And I'm going to have them collect wood, say, right here. Okay, so, whoops. So any available workers will start working on that. Okay, right click. Now, a couple things you can do with the area of resource gathering. You can take this down here. You can click this button and you can cancel it in part or all of the area. So let me just... You can see the logs going up as they gather them. But I'm just going to click and drag and cancel part of the resource gathering. You can see the red dots where it's canceling. So that area is canceled. You can also go over here to General Info, and you can increase priority on part of the area. So let's increase the priority on the area nearer to the village, and you can see the red dots where I'm increasing the priority. So they'll cut down those trees first. Okay, just to recap with the buildings, the most important buildings to put in when you start out and you've already got some houses and warehouse and barn and stuff are the food production, which usually would be a hunting cabin and a gatherer's hut, the lumberjack's lodge for firewood, and houses for any homeless people. Now, if you start out without houses, you'll also have to put in a barn, build your first house, and then eventually build a warehouse, because you've got a small warehouse but not a very big one when you start out. So let's see what happens when we run out of firewood and food. I'm going to take away the lumberjack, I'm going to take away the hunter, and I'm going to take away the gatherer. And I'm going to assign them all to general labor. And I'm going to give them a job to do. And that is gathering all the resources in the area around the village. There we go. So you can see the question marks over the building since I took the workers away. So now we just wait a while. So let's go into population mechanics now. See right here we have 12 available beds and we have only 10 villagers. That means we have 2 extra beds. Now when you get extra beds, there's a chance your villagers will start having babies. If you don't have any extra beds, they won't have babies. So let's click on all these houses. So we can see this house, we can see the population, but we don't see any babies. We've got a child and we've got a lumberjack and a builder. Here we go. Expecting a baby. So after a little while, it'll pop up in the village log that a baby has been born, and our village population will go up 1. It says a baby has been born, so our population has gone up to 11. In one of these houses, this one, yes, they're expecting another baby. So when that baby's born, population will be at its limit until we build more houses or upgrade these. Here it says child Ephron has grown up and is ready to study. That means that if we had a school, he would be going to school, and he is considered a teenager. Well, now it's winter, so they'll be using more firewood. As you can see, the firewood has just gone down to nothing, and it's giving us a warning. Stove fuel reserves are low. Pretty soon we'll start to see these houses getting cold. The snowflake will appear over them. And then there we go, there goes one. Now I'm going to attempt to save the village by assigning some lumberjacks. Now I don't know how fast they'll be able to restock the firewood. Here, let me okay, we have a maximum of 3 lumberjacks that we can assign, so let me assign 3. Okay, so they're able to restock it pretty quickly. But that was because they already had a bunch of logs available. And they are having trouble keeping up. It's gone down to 0 again. So if you allow your food or your firewood to get down to 0 or close to it, it sometimes can be pretty hard for it to catch up with it again. Our food reserves are now getting low. The only food we have is a little bit of fruit and vegetables and 69 bread. We are just about out of food. And you're starting to see these hunger icons show up over the houses. So what I'm going to do is I've got 3 positions for gatherer available. So I've only got 1 worker available. So I'm going to take away 2 of these general laborers, and I'm going to give us 3 gatherers. I'm also going to take away 3 general laborers and give us 3 hunters. And hopefully nobody will starve, before they start bringing in food. So we can already see that the gatherers are bringing in food. You can see, and there's the hunter bringing in food. It may be difficult to catch up from this. Looks like they're starting to catch up. I hope this was very helpful to you and that you enjoy the game, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.